Evan's legally installed fiber line was ripped out mid-meeting by HOA enforcers acting on a frivolous aesthetic complaint. At the heart of it was Victor Langston, a board president who wielded neighborhood rules like a club to settle personal grudges. But Evan fought back with city permits, security footage, and the law itself, turning quiet fury into unstoppable action. Wait until you see how the city made an example of the HO and why justice struck harder than anyone anticipated. Evan Holt was screen-sharing sensitive financial documents with a regulatory auditor when his video feed started to stutter. His mouse froze mid-click, the voice on the call cut out, and everything collapsed into a buffering wheel. At first, Evan thought it was a glitch, maybe his router rebooting or a server issue. But when he glanced out his front window, a wave of dread hit him. The orange utility flags he'd carefully placed to mark his permitted underground fiber line were being trampled, kicked aside like litter. Two men in reflective vests with flimsy plastic ID badges labeled HOA Operations stood over a half-dug trench. One was swinging a pickaxe to loosen the dirt. The other was tossing thick conduit into a rusty wheelbarrow like it was scrap. Evan bolted from his chair, ran outside barefoot, and demanded to know what they were doing. The man with the pickaxe didn't look up. The other handed Evan a crumpled notice titled Community Aesthetic Violation, printed on misaligned HOA letterhead. According to the notice, the board had unanimously voted to remove unsanctioned exterior utilities that disrupted the neighborhood's visual harmony. Evan stared in disbelief. The fiber line wasn't just sanctioned, it was installed under a municipal broadband pilot program, with a city permit stapled in his kitchen drawer and a digital copy filed with the HOA months ago. He tried explaining, calmly at first. One worker snorted, "Call whoever you want." The board approved it. Then he turned back to the trench, yanking another coil of fiber from the ground, snapping the casing like it was a garden hose. Evan stood barefoot in the hot grass, watching the lifeline of his livelihood torn out like it was nothing. The dropped call wasn't just a Zoom glitch, it was a missed SEC regulatory hearing. These men, these enforcers, treated his property like an inconvenience they were paid to erase. He opened his phone to call the city, only to realize the fiber box was completely severed, no signal, no backup, just static. From inside, his wife shouted, "Evan, the thermostat just died." It hit him hard. They hadn't just cut his internet, they'd severed his connection to everything. The next 48 hours were grueling. Evan scrambled between local cafes with patchy Wi-Fi, trying to cobble together enough bandwidth to salvage the work he'd prepped for weeks. It wasn't enough. The SEC compliance review, already rescheduled once, flagged his absence as a non-response. His client, a major Chicago investment firm, quietly withdrew their contract, nearly 30% of his annual revenue. By the end of day 2, Evan wasn't just exhausted. He was livid. With a stack of city permits under his arm, he marched to the HOA clubhouse. He found Victor Langston lounging under a ceiling fan, sipping from a glass mug, flipping through a newspaper like it was a lazy Sunday. Evan laid the permits down with quiet resolve and asked, firmly but politely, why his legally permitted fiber line was destroyed. Victor didn't flinch. With a tight-lipped smirk, he said, "The board acted on a complaint. Those wires were visible from the sidewalk, a violation of our continuity policy." Evan blinked. "You mean my buried cable, flagged and approved by the city?" Victor shrugged. "Look, Evan, my wife's herb garden overlooks your corner. She hated those plastic flags, said they cheapened the view. Frankly, I agreed." Then it clicked. Months earlier, the Langstons had dropped by Evan's home, uninvited, offering to manage his landscaping for $1,200 a month to maintain community harmony. Evan had declined. Clearly, that wasn't the answer they wanted. Victor was using his HOA presidency to settle a personal score, not just annoyed but retaliating. He tapped the notice Evan brought. "This is a community, Evan. We all make sacrifices for its look and feel. If you're not playing by the rules, you don't get to freeload." Freeload. The word hung like venom. Evan left the clubhouse, heart pounding, stomach churning. That night, he and his wife sat in silence, their phones struggling to load the weather. The smart thermostat was offline, lights flickering as the backup system strained. No music, no TV, just the hum of frustration filling the house. Evan stared at his blank screen, seeing only Victor's smug face, his calm entitlement, weaponizing bureaucracy like a private fiefdom. This wasn't a mistake. Height was targeted. As the buffering wheel spun on his phone for the 5th time, Evan knew what this was. Not enforcement, not oversight, but control. Victor was swinging the HOA like a sledgehammer, and Evan had taken the first hit. But Evan Holt wasn't just angry, he was focused, and that made him formidable. The moment the clubhouse door closed, he got to work not with shouting or threats, but with documents, emails, and a printer working overtime. He started with the city permitting office, where a college friend in municipal records helped him retrieve the original fiber trench approval, signed and stamped under the Metro Digital Access Initiative, a broadband program for remote professionals. The HOA had been notified 6 months prior. Evan had certified mail receipts to prove it. Next, he contacted the utility registrar, who confirmed the line ran through a city-recognized easement, not HOA land. Victor's enforcers hadn't just damaged private property, they'd tampered with public infrastructure. Evan didn't stop there. He looped in the local telecom inspector, who flagged Victor's actions as a potential violation of state utility code, unauthorized excavation, and tampering with regulated telecommunications equipment, carrying steep fines and possible civil liability. If intent was proven, it could even lead to criminal misrepresentation. Evan documented everything. A formal complaint under the Public Access Interruption Act, citing lost income, destruction of permitted infrastructure, and intentional interference. He backed it with maps, digital records, and time-stamped photos from the day of the damage. Then came the clincher. Evan's home security system had 3 exterior cameras, one perfectly angled at the trench. The footage wasn't dramatic, but was devastating. 2 men in HOA vests, laughing as they stomped through flagged soil and ripped up conduit like weeds. 46 hours after his first call, the city's public access response team arrived, setting out cones along the property line. They photographed and measured the damage. When the lead inspector asked for additional evidence, Evan handed over a USB drive. Security footage, 3 angles, audio included. The inspector raised an eyebrow. Evan just nodded. No raised voice, just evidence and the quiet confidence of being right. By evening, the city placed a hold on all HOA infrastructure-related activity, pending investigation. Justice didn't arrive with sirens. It came on city letterhead, in certified envelopes, with language too precise to dispute. Within a week, the Municipal Broadband Office issued a ruling. The HOA had violated state utility regulations and municipal infrastructure protections. Victor Langston and 2 senior board members received civil citations totaling $42,750 for unauthorized excavation, destruction of public telecommunications lines, and obstruction of a permitted program. The ruling invoked a rare clause. The HOA permanently lost control over the neighborhood's fiber grid, which was transferred to the Department of Public Connectivity. Better yet, the city fast-tracked Evans Street for a free 5 gigabit fiber upgrade as a demonstration of resilience and fairness in access. Installers arrived Monday morning. By Tuesday evening, Evans' home had internet faster than most data centers. Video calls were flawless, streaming never buffered, and every room hummed with seamless connection just as it should have been. Victor wasn't just fined. He was ousted from the HOA board for misuse of authority and ethics violations. The bylaws forced him to deliver a public apology at the next community meeting. Evan attended, not out of spite, but principle. The room was silent as Victor stood behind a folding table, sweat beading despite the fan. He read the apology without looking up, sat down, and received no applause. Evan sat in the front row, sipping coffee from a stainless steel mug, live-streaming the event on his phone. The neighborhood group chat lit up with comments. "How's that for continuity?" Someone wrote. "The signal flawless and crystal clear." That night, Evan and his wife sat on their porch, no buffering, no silence, just music from their smart speakers and a breeze rolling through a yard free from someone else's control. What Victor tried to destroy, Evan rebuilt stronger, with the city's full weight behind him. And he never raised his voice.